Welcome to the golden age of verification, where a single drop of saliva or a wayward click on a shared cloud drive can dismantle decades of carefully curated mythology. We like to believe our families are boring. We cling to the idea that the people we eat Thanksgiving dinner with are exactly who they say they are. But as the following dossier proves, the truth is often a stranger sitting at your breakfast table. From illicit cheese syndicates to erotic fan fiction vaults, these are the secrets that shattered the domestic peace, exposed not by detectives but by pure, unadulterated accident. 1. The Parmesan Kingpin of the Midwest. For years, Uncle Rick rolled up to family gatherings in a Porsche 911, draped in the casual arrogance of a man who worked in high-end international logistics. The family whispered about possible CIA connections or perhaps a quiet role in arms manufacturing. The reality was far more deliciously absurd. When the evening news finally showcased his perp walk, he wasn't charged with smuggling narcotics or weapons. Rick was the mastermind behind a massive multi-state syndicate dedicated to stealing premium hard cheeses from supermarkets. He wasn't a drug lord, he was a dairy don. He had moved literal tons of Parmigiano Reggiano through the black market. The Porsche wasn't bought with blood money. It was financed by high-risk cheddar and illicit wedges of Gouda. 2. The Architectural Mirage. Uncle Steve was the family's intellectual beacon, a celebrated architect whom everyone believed had designed the city's skyline. For 20 years, he critiqued buildings with authoritative disdain and accepted praise for local landmarks. This facade crumbled instantly during a routine municipal inspection of a new project. The audit revealed that Steve had never set foot in an architecture school. He was a draftsman with a copy of Photoshop and a pathological level of confidence. He had forged every license, bluffed every contractor, and charmed every zoning official. He wasn't a genius of structural engineering. He was a virtuoso of social engineering. The buildings still stand, but the family's trust in his vision collapsed faster than a load-bearing wall made of papier-mâché. 3. The NASA vending machine incident. Grandpa's resume was the stuff of legends, a key player in the space race, a man who crunched the numbers that put Apollo on the moon. He demanded and received the respect due to a pioneer of astrophysics. When he passed, the family eagerly awaited the release of his personnel file, expecting classified commendations. The documents arrived with a thud of disappointment. He did work for NASA, technically, but he wasn't calculating trajectories. He was the logistics manager for the cafeteria vending machines. Those stories about high-pressure situations and countdown anxiety were actually about a jammed Snickers bar coil in 1969. One small step for man, one giant leap for snack distribution. 4. The Phantom Prison Consultant. Dad's job required travel. He was a road warrior sales rep who vanished 2 weeks every month to put food on the table. The family pitied his exhausting schedule and the jet lag he complained about upon returning. The pity evaporated when the truth surfaced. Dad wasn't in a Marriott, he was in a correctional facility. He was serving a weekend release sentence for fraud. The routine was cinematic in its precision. Suit up on Friday, drive to the county jail, change into an orange jumpsuit for 48 hours, and return Sunday night complaining about the terrible airline food. In a way, he wasn't lying. The food was terrible and the travel was murder on his back, just not for the reasons he claimed. 5. The Dangerous Life of a Mall Santa. A boyfriend explained his jumpiness and aversion to loud noises as combat nerves from classified deployments overseas. His girlfriend, moved by his sacrifice, treated him with gentle reverence. This dynamic shifted when she found his true employment history buried in a tax folder. He had never served in the military. His PTSD, post-traumatic Santa disorder, stemmed from 3 consecutive holiday seasons as a mall Santa Claus. The flashbacks he suffered weren't of the battlefield. They were of screaming toddlers, irate Karens, and being kicked in the shins by children demanding PlayStations. He had stolen valor from the armed forces to cover up the emotional scars of retail hell. 6. The Cheese Imposter. Wait, no, the Vegan Fraud. There is a specific kind of holiness possessed by a militant vegan family, a purity that they wear like a halo. The eldest son was the golden child of this kale-worshipping cult until he fell mysteriously ill. The doctors were baffled until the boy confessed in a moment of delirium. He wasn't suffering from a flu. He was in withdrawal. For 3 years, he had been sneaking out daily to consume double bacon cheeseburgers. His body, a temple of tofu, had been desecrated by industrial grease. He wasn't sick from a pathogen. He was sick because his biology was staging a violent protest against the sudden reintroduction of vegetables. The betrayal wasn't dietary, it was spiritual. 7. The lottery winner who starved his kids. This entry enters the realm of true villainy. A family spent decades in grinding poverty, eating flavorless ramen and patching holes in their shoes, while the father lamented the cruel economy. When the patriarch suffered a stroke, the family accessed his financial records to pay the bills. They found a bank account containing $4 million. He had won the lottery a decade prior and simply sat on it. He watched his children go hungry and his wife weep over bills, all to die the richest man in the graveyard. It takes a special kind of sociopathy to hoard wealth while your own bloodline starves in the next room, proving that money doesn't change people. It just reveals who they really are. 8. The corporate downsizing gambler. The narrative was tragic and noble. Dad lost his job due to heartless corporate downsizing, a victim of the ruthless market. He became a sympathetic figure, a martyr of capitalism. The bubble burst when his boss arrived at the house, not to offer condolences, but to repossess the company car. He hadn't been laid off. He had been fired for embezzling company funds to purchase thousands of scratch-off lottery tickets. He had gambled away his career on bad math and shiny cardboard. The corporate restructuring he complained about was actually just the security guards escorting him out of the building, like for trying to scratch his way to retirement. 9. The Imitation Doctor. For 40 years, the town revered their local dentist, a man of gentle hands and steady drills. Retirement brought a paperwork audit, and the town learned a horrifying truth. The diploma on the wall was a prop. He had started as a dental assistant in the 1970s and simply never stopped working, slowly upgrading his title until everyone, including his own staff, assumed he was a licensed DDS. The realization sent shockwaves through the community. Every root canal, every filling, every extraction had been performed by a man whose qualifications were essentially fake it till you make it. The betrayal felt physical, literally drilling into the nerves of the people who trusted him. 10. The Identity Theft Dynasty. The family prided themselves on their blue blood, boasting of a lineage descended from a famous 19th century business tycoon. They looked down on new money with disdain. A genealogy DNA test shattered their aristocratic delusions. Their great-grandfather wasn't the tycoon. He was the town drunk who had opportunistically swapped papers with the rich man during the chaos of a train wreck. Their entire dynasty, their wealth, their haughty attitude, it was all built on a foundation of Victorian-era identity theft. They weren't scions of industry. They were the descendants of a chaotic hobo who saw an opportunity and took it. 11. The Star Trek Erotica Vault. When renovating a parent's attic, one expects to find dust, maybe some old photos or forgotten toys. One lucky son found a hidden wall safe, the kind usually reserved for jewels or bearer bonds. With trembling hands, he cracked the combination, expecting a fortune. Instead, he unleashed a Pandora's box of thousands of pages of handwritten fan fiction. But not just any stories. These were erotic Star Trek adventures featuring a captain who was a painfully obvious self-insert of his father. Every detail, from the haircut to the catchphrases, matched Dad. The son now has to live with the mental image of his father seducing Klingons in a spiral-bound notebook. Some safes should stay closed. 12. The Doomsday Man Cave. Dad spent a fortune building a high-tech panic room in the basement, ranting about the impending apocalypse and the need for security. The family tolerated his paranoia, assuming it was a midlife crisis focusing on survivalism. When they finally found the hidden entrance code, they didn't find rations or gas masks. They found a soundproof luxury lounge with a 60-inch television, a minibar, and a recliner. The end-of-the-world drills were just him escaping his children to nap and watch sports in absolute silence. He wasn't preparing for the collapse of society. He was preparing for a quiet Sunday afternoon. 13. The Night School Wizard. Mom inspired the entire family with her dedication to self-improvement, claiming she was taking night classes to finally finish her degree. Her sacrifices were lauded at dinner. Suspicion arose when she forgot to check in and her husband tracked her phone for safety. She wasn't at the local university. She was in a vacant parking lot, wearing a cloak and swinging a foam sword. She wasn't studying history. She was a level 50 wizard in a live-action role-playing group. The tuition money was going toward custom elven armor. The revelation that Mom wasn't a scholar but a medieval combat enthusiast was a plot twist no one saw coming. 14. The Secret Karaoke Rage. A husband confided in his wife that he was attending weekly anger management sessions, a brave step toward emotional maturity. She supported his journey, proud of his introspection. The facade cracked when she found the receipts in his jacket pocket. He wasn't screaming into a pillow in a therapist's office. He was screaming the lyrics to Bohemian Rhapsody at a karaoke bar. He used the therapy time to perfect his rendition of wicked show tunes. He wasn't managing his anger, he was managing his vibrato. Honesty is important, but apparently so is nailing the high note in defying gravity. 15. The Recycling Illusion. The parents were strict teetotalers, forbidding alcohol in the house and lecturing on the virtues of sobriety. The plumbing eventually betrayed them. When a pipe burst behind the bathroom drywall, the plumber had to open the wall cavity. An avalanche of empty vodka bottles cascaded out like a glass waterfall. They hadn't been abstaining. They had been insulating their home with evidence of their hypocrisy. They were essentially living inside a kaleidoscope of Smirnoff. It turns out the only thing structural holding up the bathroom was 80 proof and denial. 16. The Surveillance State Mother. Mom claimed she had a psychic connection with her children, a supernatural intuition that alerted her whenever they misbehaved. The kids grew up believing she was a witch. The magic died when they found baby monitors installed inside the HVAC vents of every room in the house. She wasn't clairvoyant. She was running a Soviet-style surveillance state from the laundry room. Her mother's intuition was just high-gain audio equipment and a lack of boundaries. Trust is a fragile thing, especially when you realize the air conditioning vent has been snitching on you since 1998. 17. The Text Message Marriage. The neighbors envied the couple next door. In 20 years, not a single raised voice or slammed door was heard from their home. They were the epitome of marital harmony. The illusion was shattered during a block party when the husband, slightly inebriated, spilled the secret. They didn't have a peaceful marriage, they detested each other. They simply conducted all their vicious arguments via text message while sitting on the same couch to avoid alerting the homeowners association. Their silence wasn't peace. It was Cold War efficiency. They were verbally abusing each other digitally to keep property values high. 18. The Shower Drain Horror. For years, the family battled a chronically clogged shower drain. No amount of chemical cleaner could clear it. Finally, a plumber was called to snake the pipes. He retrieved a massive calcified clump of hair and toenail clippings. The father had been cutting his toenails in the shower for a decade, washing them down the drain like a monster. The sheer volume of keratin blockage was a testament to his laziness. The plumber charged extra, citing emotional distress from having to handle the dad's discarded biology. Some secrets are best left in the pipes, but eventually even the plumbing gags. 19. The Bathroom Snacker. Mom's skincare routine was legendary. A sacred hour locked in the bathroom every night where she exfoliated away the stress. The kids respected the ritual until they found her stash under the sink. Hidden behind the cleaning supplies were crates of beef jerky and family-sized candy bars. She wasn't moisturizing. She was aggressively snacking in the only room with a lock so she wouldn't have to share a single bite with her offspring. Her glowing complexion wasn't from serums. It was the radiant joy of eating a Snickers without a toddler asking for a piece. 20. The Kung Fu Bathrobe. Dad was the protector of the realm, a man who bragged for years about his black belt in karate. He was the distinct line of defense between his family and the dangers of the world. Then, a bat flew into the living room. The sensei screamed at a pitch only dogs could hear and locked himself in the downstairs bathroom, leaving his wife and kids to fend off the confused mammal. Exposure followed quickly. His black belt was literally the sash from a high-end bathrobe. He had never thrown a punch in his life. He died with his honor intact only because the bat didn't live to tell the tale. 21. The Christmas DNA Disaster. It started as a wholesome gift idea. One guy bought DNA kits for the entire family, envisioning a fun holiday activity comparing percentages of Irish ancestry. It ended the family unit as they knew it. The results arrived, proving that the guy's dad wasn't his biological father, an awkward enough revelation. But the narrative twisted when Uncle Dave, Dad's best friend who practically lived on their couch every summer, started sweating through his Christmas sweater. The data didn't lie. Mom hadn't strayed far from the friend group during the lonely summer of '98. Uncle Dave went from fun family friend to biological patriarch in the time it took to refresh a web page. 22. The Funeral Mistress Reveal. Funerals are somber affairs, usually not the place for plot twists. But at this wake, the grieving widow noticed a woman in the front row crying with a ferocity that seemed excessive. They compared notes over the canapes. Not only did the deceased husband have a secret second family, but he was a master of efficiency. He had named his illegitimate children the exact same names as his legitimate ones. He had 2 Ryans and 2 Sarahs. This wasn't just infidelity. This was administrative sociopathy. He had streamlined his betrayal so he wouldn't mix up the names during phone calls. 23. The Twin Paternity Anomaly. A suspicious husband demanded a paternity test because his twin boys looked nothing alike. One light, one dark. He expected to catch his wife in a lie. The doctor had to sit him down for a medical lesson that destroyed his life. It is rare but possible for twins to have different fathers, heteropaternal superfecundation. Basically, his wife had been busy with him and another partner within the same ovulation window. One twin was his son. The other was a permanent, living reminder of the pool boy. The biology was fascinating. The divorce was instantaneous. 24. The Incestuous Genealogy Trip. A couple happily married for 10 years with beautiful children decided to dig into their genealogy for fun. They weren't looking for secrets. They just wanted to build a family tree. The software connected the dots a little too well. They weren't just distant cousins. They were half-siblings sharing a father who had been extremely prolific in the 1970s. The realization that their marriage was technically an accidental felony in most states was devastating. Explaining to the kids why mommy and daddy are getting a divorce and are also aunt and uncle is a conversation no child psychologist is prepared for. 25. The Redheaded Surprise. A suspicious father demanded a DNA test because his newborn son had bright flaming red hair, while everyone else in the family was brunette. He was convinced his wife had cheated with a ginger. He wanted vindication. The plan backfired in spectacular fashion. The wife was faithful, the genes were accurate. The test revealed that the father was actually adopted, a fact his own parents had never told him. He was the one with the mystery genes. He went looking for his wife's betrayal and found his own entire identity was a fabrication. 26. The Vasectomy That Wasn't. A father of 5 insisted he had undergone a vasectomy 2 decades ago, making the last 3 children medical miracles that defied science. The truth surfaced when his medical file was transferred to a new provider. He hadn't had the surgery. He had panicked in the waiting room 20 years ago, bought a bag of frozen peas to fake the recovery on the couch, and just hoped biology would sort itself out. It didn't. He had been playing Russian roulette with fertility for 2 decades, and he lost 3 times. The family group chat is now a war zone. 27. The Cousin Who Wasnt. For 20 years, the family hosted a foreign exchange student from Italy named Marco. He was charming, loved espresso, and became a fixture at holidays. When immigration officials finally came knocking, the facade dropped. Marco was actually a guy from New Jersey named Mike. He had faked an accent for over a decade because he really enjoyed the family's hospitality, free rent, and homemade lasagna. He committed to the bit so hard he practically became Italian by osmosis. The betrayal was softened only by the fact that his marinara recipe was actually quite good. 28. The Imposter Goldfish. A young girl believed her goldfish, Mr. Bubbles, was a biological marvel who lived for an incredible 15 years. The illusion shattered when she found a receipt book in her dad's desk. The ledger detailed the purchase of 42 identical goldfish over that time period. She had been raising a Highlander fish. She had been unknowingly mourning a rotating cast of imposters her entire childhood. Her father had been running a covert replacement operation to avoid explaining death to a toddler, eventually becoming the largest single buyer of goldfish in the county. 29. The Fake Dead Brother. This is psychological warfare. A guy spent his entire life believing he had a twin brother who died at birth, a tragedy that explained why his parents were so suffocatingly protective. He discovered the truth at 21. There was no twin. His mother had invented a dead brother solely to guilt trip him whenever he wanted to do something dangerous like ride a skateboard or stay out late. Your brother died doing that was the ultimate trump card. He was mourning a ghost that was actually just a manipulation tactic. 30. The Lexus Origin Story. A daughter named Lexus grew up thinking she was named after the luxury car because her father appreciated high standards in engineering. It was a point of pride. Then she found his private journals from the 1990s. She wasn't named after the sedan. She was named after a specific dancer at a gentleman's club who gave him a discount on buffalo wings on Tuesday nights. Her name wasn't a tribute to automotive excellence. It was a tribute to affordable poultry and neon lights. 31. The Biker Gang Mother. A conservative mother lectured her daughter for years about the evils of tattoos, calling them trashy stamps. While trying on swimsuits for a vacation, the daughter caught a glimpse of a massive faded ink mural on her mom's lower back. It was the insignia of a notorious 1980s biker gang. Mom hadn't always been a PTA president. She used to ride on the back of a Harley with guys named Chain and Skull. She was a rebel in disguise, preaching purity while sitting on a secret history of anarchy. 32. The Grandma Who Could Run. Grandma sat in a wheelchair for 20 years, demanding that her relatives carry her up the porch stairs and fetch her tea. She was the matriarchal invalid. During a minor kitchen fire, panic set in. Grandma sprinted out the front door faster than her grandson, who ran track. She wasn't disabled. She just really enjoyed making people wait on her hand and foot. The wheelchair was a throne of laziness. The fire didn't burn the house down, but it certainly incinerated her credibility. 33. The Pure Language. Parents often use a foreign language to discuss adult topics in front of the kids. This family used what they called French. When the daughter finally took actual French 101 in college, she realized her parents had just been speaking gibberish with a Pepe Le Pew accent for 2 decades. They weren't communicating in a Romance language. They were making noises at each other to talk trash about the neighbors. The daughter's realization that her entire linguistic upbringing was a farce was less sacre bleu and more what the hell. 34. The Hidden Metal Records. A strictly religious father forbade his children from listening to secular music, calling it the devil's rhythm. When he died, the kids cleaned out a hidden storage unit. It was filled with thousands of heavy metal records and vintage adult magazines. He wasn't pious. He was hoarding all the fun and sin for himself. He had been headbanging in secret while forcing his children to listen to hymns. The hypocrisy was deafening, much like the Metallica albums he had hidden in the back. 35. The Russian Queen of Ohio. Grandma claimed she was descended from Russian royalty, a lost Romanov survivor, and made everyone treat her like an exiled queen. After she died, the family found her real birth documents. She was actually a wanted con artist from Ohio named Brenda. The only thing she ruled over was a small empire of stolen costume jewelry and unpaid bingo debts. Her royal etiquette was just a grifter's confidence. She had played the long con on her own grandchildren, and honestly, you have to respect the commitment to the bit. 36. The Holier-Than-Thou Cam Girl. A conservative family bragged for years about their daughter's high-paying job in corporate consulting in the big city. They were the envy of the church group. The truth came out when Dad accidentally logged onto an adult live stream site late one night. There she was, earning her holiday bonus live on camera. The consulting involved entirely different assets than the family assumed. The family reunion that year was the quietest event in human history, with a lot of awkward staring at the mashed potatoes. 37. The paid actress fiancé. A wealthy family hired a private investigator to vet their son's new fiancée, suspecting she was after their money. The PI didn't find dirt, but he found a casting call. The fiancée was a paid actress hired by the son to make his ex-girlfriend jealous. The relationship was a scripted performance. The wedding was called off, but the bill for her acting services was astronomical. She had really committed to the role of loving partner, likely hoping for a Saji Award nomination. 38. The fake hero of the flood. A guy grew up believing his dad was a local hero who saved the town from a historic flood in the 1980s. He found the old newspaper clippings in the basement, but the headlines told a different story. His dad didn't stop the flood, he caused it. He had tried to illegally drain his swimming pool into the storm sewer during heavy rain, backing up the system. He wasn't the town's savior. He was the guy who flooded Main Street because he didn't want to pay for proper drainage. 39. The shark attack lie. Dad refused to swim in the ocean, citing a traumatic shark attack survivor story that he told with harrowing detail. During a beach trip, his brother got tipsy and spilled the truth. It wasn't a shark. A crab had pinched his toe in shallow water, and he ran out screaming so loud he wet himself. To cover the embarrassment of fleeing from a crustacean, he invented a great white battle. He had let a tiny crab dictate family vacations for 20 years. 40. The combat boot stolen valor. This one is pure cringe. Uncle Bob claimed he was written out of the family will because he was the black sheep rebel, a misunderstood iconoclast. The lawyer revealed the actual clause at the reading. Bob wasn't disinherited for being cool. He was cut off because he stole the family silver, melted it down, and tried to sell the raw metal to a dentist to make fillings. He wasn't a rebel. He was a botched metallurgist with sticky fingers. 41. The Cat Litter Cremation. The family treated a sealed urn on the mantel with holy reverence, believing it contained Great Aunt Edna's ashes. Tears were shed before it. A clumsy cousin knocked it over during a holiday party, shattering the ceramic. It was filled with gray kitty litter and cigarette butts. Grandpa finally confessed he had spilled the real Aunt Edna while vacuuming 5 years ago, and panicked. He replaced his wife with tidy cats to avoid the argument. The family had been mourning a litter box. 42. The Diamond Heirloom. A woman showed off her massive diamond engagement ring to everyone, claiming it was a family heirloom worth 50 grand. It was her symbol of status. When she took it for a cleaning, the jeweler didn't even use a loupe to assess it. It was cubic zirconia from a kiosk in the mall. Her husband had been lying about his net worth since the first date. He had proposed with glass and a prayer. 43. The vintage wine fraud. The family thought their vintage wine cellar was worth a fortune, a nest egg for the future. They invited a sommelier to appraise the collection. He took one sip and spat it out. The bottles had been refilled with cheap grape juice and resealed with wax decades ago. Someone, likely a thirsty teenage relative in the 90s, had drunk the profits long ago and covered their tracks with welts. The vintage was actually Concord Grape, 1994. 44. The Perfume Decanter. A wealthy aunt always gave exclusive designer perfumes as Christmas gifts. The family felt incredibly special receiving Chanel and Dior. Then a niece noticed the labels were peeling off. The aunt was buying dollar store body spray and pouring it into empty designer bottles she bought on eBay. The family had been smelling like vanilla musky lies for a decade, walking around thinking they exuded luxury when they actually smelled like a clearance rack. 45. The Charity Scam Mom. Mom collected donations for a Save the Whales fund for years, holding bake sales and knocking on doors. The neighbors got suspicious when she bought a new convertible. It turns out the Whales was just the nickname she gave her credit card debt. She had scammed the entire cul-de-sac to pay off her shopping spree. She wasn't an environmentalist, she was a predator, and the neighbors were the krill. 46. The Traffic Cone Hoard. Grandma always kept one room locked, claiming it was for fragile antiques that couldn't be disturbed. When paramedics had to break the door down, they didn't find Ming vases. The room was filled floor to ceiling with stolen traffic cones and street signs. Grandma was a kleptomaniac with a weird obsession for road safety infrastructure. She had been single-handedly disrupting municipal traffic patterns for 40 years. 47. The Fake Poodle. The family bragged about their purebred poodle that cost $2,000. It was a status symbol on a leash. A veterinarian ran a genetic panel during a checkup. The dog was 0% poodle. It was a creative mix of stray terriers with a perm and a really good grooming job. They had paid $2,000 for a haircut and a lie. The dog was a mutt, but a very convincing actor. 48. The Chinese menu tattoo. Mom always said her tattoo was a profound Chinese symbol for courage and inner strength. She wore it with pride. A waiter at a Chinese restaurant finally worked up the nerve to tell her the truth. The character on her shoulder actually translated to spicy chicken soup. She had been a walking menu item for 20 years, advertising soup to anyone who stood behind her. 49. The Pumpkin Fraud. Grandpa won the county fair giant pumpkin contest 3 years in a row, a local agricultural legend. After he died, his neighbor spilled the beans. Grandpa didn't grow them. He drove 2 counties over in the middle of the night, bought the biggest pumpkin from a commercial farm, and transferred it to his patch under the cover of darkness. He was a pumpkin mule. 50. The UV Light Gangster. Uncle Jim wore leather gloves everywhere, claiming he had a rare sensitivity to UV light. It made him look mysterious and sickly. He fell asleep at Thanksgiving, and his nephew pulled a glove off. He had Thug Life tattooed across his knuckles from a rebellious phase in the 90s. He wasn't sick. He was just regretting his wannabe gangster era and didn't have the cash for laser removal. The verdict. In the grand theater of human folly, these facts remind us that every family tree has a few branches that are legally actionable. We build our identities on stories, but sometimes those stories are written by bored dads in basements or panicked grandfathers with a vacuum cleaner. The next time you look across the table at your kin, remember, that diamond might be glass, that hero might be a janitor, and that Parmesan cheese might be evidence. Truth is stranger than fiction, but family secrets are just fiction with a lower budget and higher stakes. Until next time, keep your safes locked and your DNA to yourself.